What the Study Says.
Welcome back to What the Study Says. I'm Dr. Kai.
And I'm Dr. May. Okay, imagine this. A medical emergency. Someone can't breathe. And help comes not through the lungs, but through the other end.
That's definitely a startling image to start with.
Right.
But it perfectly sets up our deep dive today. We're looking at research that won an Ig Nobel Prize.
Ah, yes, the Ig Nobels.
Exactly. For anyone who doesn't know, they award prizes for science that, well, first makes you laugh.
And then makes you think.
Precisely.
And believe me, this one delivers on both fronts. We're diving into the 2024 Ig Nobel Physiology Prize winner. The research title is Mammalian Enteral Ventilation Ameliorates Respiratory Failure.
It sounds complex, maybe even a bit bizarre.
It does.
But our mission today is to unpack it because it might point towards a genuinely life-saving technique.
So where did this even come from? What problem were they trying to solve?
Well, think back just a few years to the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The ventilator shortages,
Yeah, exactly. Hospitals were overwhelmed. It became critically clear that we need alternative ways to get oxygen into people when traditional ventilators aren't available or just aren't enough on their own. A really urgent need.
Okay, so a serious problem. But the solution they explored, breathing through the gut. Where did that idea originate?
It's pretty amazing, actually. It came from looking at aquatic life. Certain species, like loaches.
Loaches, like the fish.
Yeah, those bottom-dwelling fish.
Yeah.
They have this incredible backup system. When the oxygen in the water gets too low, they can actually absorb oxygen through their intestines. It's a survival mechanism.
Wow. Okay. So the researchers thought if fish can do it.
Could mammals. That was the hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
The idea hinges on the structure of the rectum. It has a fairly thin lining, the mucosa, and it's packed with blood vessels.
Right, the hemorrhoidal plexuses and such.
Exactly. Similar in a way to how our lungs absorb oxygen. So the question was, could this network be used for gas exchange if we introduced oxygen there?
Kind of a wild thought. How did they even start testing that?
Well, they tried two main approaches for this. Enteral ventilation amelioration, or EVA. First was gas-based EVA, GEVA.
So it was just pumping oxygen gas in?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And it did increase oxygen levels, but there was a catch. It only worked well if they abraded the mucosal lining first.
Abraded, you mean scraped or damaged it?
Yeah, which obviously is not something you want to do to a patient. It made it clinically, well, pretty much a non-starter.
Okay, that sounds like a dead end. How did they get around needing to damage the tissue?
This is where the liquid-based EVA, or LEVA, came in. This was the real breakthrough, I think. They used oxygenated perfluorocarbons.
PFDs.
PFDs.
Yeah.
Those are those liquids that can dissolve huge amounts of gas, right? Been used in medicine before.
That's the stuff. High capacity for both oxygen and CO2. And crucially, using this oxygen-loaded liquid, they could get significant oxygenation without any abrasion.
Okay, now that sounds promising. What did the actual results show? Did it work in animals? It did, and quite impressively. In mice suffering from hypoxia, low oxygen, the LEVA treatment significantly boosted their systemic oxygen levels.
So they could, function better.
Yes, they could walk further, for example, and their oxygen levels stayed up for quite a while after the treatment. A clear therapeutic effect.
Mice are one thing, but what about larger animals? Closer to humans?
Good question. They moved on to pig models.
Mm-hmm.
And the results there were really encouraging for clinical potential. Giving repeated repel doses of this oxygenated PFD liquid,
Yeah.
it caused a dramatic increase in oxygen saturation. We're talking SpO2 jumping by about 15% on average, from maybe 67% up to around 82%.
Wow, that's a significant jump from critical levels.
It is. And arterial oxygen, the PO2, also increased notably by about 13 millimilli-Hg. Plus, these effects were reproducible, and each dose lasted for roughly 18 minutes.
18 minutes. That could be a crucial window in an emergency.
Exactly.
But what about safety? Putting this liquid, well, you know where. Any side effects?
That was obviously a major focus. And the preclinical safety profile looked remarkably good. Very little of the PFD was actually absorbed into the bloodstream.
Okay.
And they didn't see significant side effects. No major diarrhea, no dehydration, no signs of organ damage on lab tests or even in post-mortem analysis. The gut seemed to handle it well.
That's reassuring. So, bringing it back to the listener, what's the bottom line here? What could this mean practically?
Well, it's really important to stress this isn't seen as a replacement for mechanical ventilation.
Right, not instead of ventilators.
No, but as a potential adjunctive therapy, an add-on. Think about situations with really critical respiratory distress, maybe a severe asthma attack or someone whose airway is blocked, maybe even newborns struggling to breathe right after birth.
Situations where getting oxygen in immediately is vital, but maybe a ventilator isn't ready or the right immediate tool?
Precisely. This could potentially offer a completely new way to provide that rapid short-term oxygen support. A new paradigm, really.
Of course, it's still early days, right?
I mean-
Must be limitations.
Absolutely. For one, they don't fully understand the exact mechanism of how the oxygen gets across the gut lining so efficiently with a PFD. More research is needed there.
And presumably more studies in different conditions.
Yes, especially in models of things like severe pneumonia, where the lungs are already compromised. And of course, the crucial step will be human safety trials. That's still down the road.
Okay, so to wrap up.
We've looked at some truly unconventional science today, inspired by fish, tested in mammals, and potentially offering a new adjunctive way to help people breathe in emergencies via the enteral route.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? The human body, we think we know it, but maybe it has these hidden capabilities. And it started with research that, yes, probably made people chuckle at first.
But then really makes you think deeply about innovation and where it can come from.
Absolutely.
So if this deep dive into the weirder side of potentially life-saving science caught your interest,
Then definitely subscribe and perhaps share what the study says. We'll keep digging into these unexpected corners of research.